Superhero movies have come a long way over the last 2 decades. CGI and special effects have given filmmakers the opportunity to portray almost anything imaginable on screen. The quality of action sequences and scenery has increased exponentially to a point where they don't even look real. It's a tricky balance to get just the right amount of fiction into a world that is supposed to be for ordinary people. Now, despite all these challenges, at the heart of filmmaking lies the story. And as movies of recent times continue to prove, no matter how stellar a cast you can assemble, if you don't have a good story, you can't have a good movie. Outside of all the well-choreographed stunts, art must inevitably imitate life. And that brings us to the second installment of the MCU franchise, Black Panther.
Wakanda Forever!
The movie felt like it went on forever and ever and ever. 2.5 hours, 150 minutes, a whopping 9,000 seconds to tell a tale so stale. I had zero intentions of watching this movie, hence the somewhat late review. I had a lot of choice words for the first installment, and so I couldn't fathom a world with a sequel that would be worth watching. And as it happens, I was right.
Hey, do you actually believe the crap that comes out of your mouth?
As it happens, I'm never really sure till I'm done talking. On to the premise of this long, drawn-out tale. The Black Panther is dead as the result of an undefined illness. His mother steps up by default to lead the nation and defend it from the rest of the world and their dangerous potential. A secret kingdom that has heretofore been unknown to the world rises from the depths of the sea. The ruler of said underwater kingdom is a mutant who is virtually unstoppable.
But my enemies call me Namor.
Said underwater king thwarts an attack on his kingdom's stash of vibranium. In response to this attack and fueled by his traumatic past encounter with colonizers, he is determined to conquer the entire world. Why? Because he can. But to do this, he needs help from Wakanda, the only other country in the world with vibranium. Strangely, Underwater King gives the Wakandans an ultimatum to support him in his quest to burn the rest of the world to the ground or be the first to suffer his wrath. The Wakandans, being the paragons of virtue, decline the Underwater King's offer, as tempting as it was, and a battle between the two primitive yet technologically advanced nations ensues. Oh, and did I mention that in the build-up to this battle, the Queen Mother is killed by the Underwater King?
My bad.
The deceased Black Panther sister is sufficiently enraged by the loss of her mother. She has a brain spark and manages to recreate the flower that gives the superpowers of the Black Panther. She, Princess Shuri, is the new Black Panther and will avenge her mother's death, just like Killmonger intended to do in the first movie. And how well did that turn out for him?
Yeah, that's not funny.
No kidding. Anyway, in the ultimate showdown between the 100-pound Black Panther and the 250-pound Underwater King, you can guess who won. No, it's not the bigger, stronger, faster, and more experienced 400-year-old man. No, not in this day and age of toxic masculinity and impossibly strong female characters. With a literal hole in her stomach, the featherweight princess forces the heavyweight king to yield. And that's your story. It only took 2.5 hours to tell it.
Are you serious?
The passing of Chadwick Boseman was sad, and I don't know anyone who would think otherwise. But I am reminded of the once upon a time popular TV show Spartacus. Similarly, the main actor, Andy Whitfield, sadly passed away, but rather than change the story, they took a break and came back with a new leading man, Liam McIntyre. Maybe it was the time, but it was the right thing to do. Sad as the reason for the change may have been. Because what's the alternative? An entire story that is long-standing has been changed to suit the sentiments of the feminist-driven times? Chadwick Boseman, you will be missed. Moving on to some of the highlights in this tale of postmodern propaganda, it took less than 10 minutes into the movie and the Queen Mother of Wakanda was spouting about the goodness of Wakandans and how the rest of the world can't be trusted.
Not because of the dangerous potential of vibranium, but because of the dangerous potential of you.
Talk about being subtle. Apparently, it worked because no one had a comeback. And what can we learn from that scene? Even in the fictional superhero world, the race card trumps all.
Amazing.
On to the villain with a name no one can repeat.
My people call me Kukungkan,
You're going to have to repeat that.
but my enemies call me Namor.
Namor it is. Now, Namor, what's with the wings on your feet? I never met a chicken that could swim or a fish that could fly and conveniently breathe in and out of water. Along with your anatomy, your backstory and motivations don't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, he shows up out of nowhere and demands the Wakandans help his people. By the way, he expects an answer immediately. But if the Wakandans refuse to help him basically destroy the whole world, then he will invade the world anyway, starting with Wakanda, because his army is so big he didn't really need Wakanda to begin with.
That doesn't make any sense!
Moving on to more baffling bits. The Queen Mother, Ramonda, dies inexplicably. We last see her alive saving the genius inventor from drowning. What genius inventor, I hear you ask? The genius inventor who up to this point I have not mentioned because she is that relevant to the plot. Said genius inventor was unconscious underwater but manages to live. Yet Queen Ramonda, who was conscious underwater whilst saving our genius inventor, dies.
That doesn't make any sense!
Another carefully concocted conundrum. It took a minute less than 2 hours for us to finally see the new Black Panther in full gear. Princess Shuri, all 100 pounds of her, and that's when she's soaking wet in her suit that is impossibly flexible, yet completely bulletproof, bomb-proof, and fireproof.
That doesn't make any sense!
I know, right? It would have been more plausible if the fearless Queen Ramonda had lived to don the suit.
Are you serious?
Like a heart attack. Another late entrance in the series of events was Nakia. It was an hour before we even saw her. She didn't even show up for her boyfriend's funeral. I say boyfriend because it's not clear if she was married to the late King T'Challa or not. And if she was, then wouldn't that make her the new queen? Shortly after her appearance, she is deployed by Queen Ramonda to go and rescue the kidnapped Princess Shuri. Of all the people in Wakanda, including the disgraced General Okoye, the Queen Mother's best option for a rescue mission was to send the self-exiled former girlfriend / former wife of her dearly departed son. Wouldn't Mbako have at the very least been a better option? It was all too easy and convenient for Nakia to infiltrate the fish world she had never visited before and rescue the reluctant princess in under a minute.
Amazing!
The post-credit scene was true to form, a little too convenient for the sake of pulling at the audience's heartstrings one last time. Apparently, T'Challa had a son who was stashed away in Haiti. How sweet and hope-inspiring for the future of his bloodline. And that raises a whole bunch of questions. Like, who is the ruler of Wakanda? Shuri bunks the ceremony to stake a claim to the title, and the usual suspect, M'Baku, was there to receive a beating from whoever else threw their hat in the ring. At the beginning, I said I had some choice words for the first installment of the Black Panther. Inasmuch as T'Challa and Killmonger were the main characters, the first movie was a chick flick. The supporting cast was composed of the nerdy little sister, the ubiquitous girlfriend slash wife, the wise queen mother, and the resolute general, who were all strong women. We got more of the same in the sequel, Wakanda Forever. But what about the leading male characters? I hear you protest. They were Namor, M'Baku, and Everett Ross, played by Martin Freeman, in that order. Namor was the bad guy, so he had to be a man. His motives were twisted, so he had everything he got coming to him. M'Baku, on the other hand, was just there because he didn't die in the first Black Panther movie, and Martin Freeman is as clued in as he is necessary to the plot. He didn't know if he was coming or going, and spent the whole movie taking orders from strong, confident, assertive women. Yeah, our young men and boys could do more with this sort of messaging.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
A few questions came to mind after watching this movie, such as, why didn't M'Baku try to challenge the Queen Mother after T'Challa's funeral? And where were the fish people when Thanos was snapping his fingers away? Did they all survive? And why were the women in the opening scene carrying the coffin? Now, I'm from Africa, and I don't know about any tribe that wears white at a funeral. But then again, what do I know? And what's with the accents? Again, I'm from Africa, and I don't sound like anyone in Wakanda Forever!
Sir, you're out of order.
Out of order? I'll show you out of order. I give this lame excuse for a superhero movie 2 stars, and that's only because I'm feeling generous. And if you don't like that, let me know in the comments. And until next time,
I'll be back.